Okay, good evening, everyone. As we begin, I'll ask everyone present to please silence cell phones and other electronic devices, and of course, remind council that our procedure bylaw prescribes the use of said technology during council meetings. It is 5:34 p.m. I'll call this meeting of Brighton Council to order. Brighton Council's work takes place on the traditional Indigenous territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe, now of Alderville, and we are thankful to be able to work and live on this land. We offer a land acknowledgement as a way to recognize, respect, and honor this territory, the treaties, the original occupants, their ancestors, and the historic connection they still have with these lands and waters. We are grateful for the opportunity that these lands and waters present to the people of Brighton and grateful to work in partnership with the Indigenous community on their stewardship and sustainability. Moving on to the approval of the agenda, we do have an amendment. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that Council alter the March 24th, 2025 Council agenda to add Staff Report 2024 Council and Committee Remuneration Report as listed under Section 11.5. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council approve the March 24th, 2025 Council agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. I will note that Councillor Butwell has sent regrets for this evening. Members of Council, have you any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. Our first business will be conducted in a closed session, and I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon. The Council resolve itself into closed session March 24th, 2025 at 5:35 p.m. pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act RSO 2001 as amended, subsection 239(2)E. Litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Discussion with the solicitor regarding the OLT 24000093 report on motion for costs. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And we'll give staff a moment to transition to the closed session, and we will see the member of the gallery later on. We'll take a 5-minute recess while that happens. Staff are going to try to figure out the live stream concerns, but we're going to carry on with the meeting. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that Council receive the delegation from Laura Knegt, Chair, Brighton Economic Development Advisory Committee, providing an update regarding the committee's request to proceed with a refresh of Brighton's visual identity, including a new logo. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Just recently have been appointed to the ECDEV committee, and today attended my first Bay of Quinte Marketing and board meeting. There is excitement around this, and I believe now with our department with having an extra person this year as well, if there is a time to do it, now is it. We have money in the budget, and we have energy in the department, and I think now is the time to get this done to move Brighton forward with something new, fresh face.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley. Anything further from members of council? Those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next delegation comes from Jake DeGroot regarding the OLT 24000093 JRB Williams Enterprises, Inc. report. Mr. DeGroot, welcome back. You have the floor.
Tough act to follow here, so I'll do my best. I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm just want to close a chapter. Last week, like a lot of weeks, I watch what happens up here online, and I noticed after the discussion about the decision made, I could tell that you were feeling a lot like I was feeling. Emily, you as well, and so I thought I'd come up here with just a kind of a statement, a closing statement from the community down in the Bay. I feel I can talk for them. I talk to them all the time. I was going to bring out some, but some I talked to a little bit defeated. Others had family issues and things like that, and so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go it alone. But I read this decision from the case management, and it outlines how the costs can be awarded, and the tribunal is not bound to order the costs, but they will use rules to consider the seriousness of any misconduct and decide themselves. The tribunal may only award costs if a party acts in an unreasonable manner or frivolous and vexatious and act in bad faith. These are the tribunal's words, and then they became the developer's words. The rule goes on to list 9 separate items, anything from failing to attend, failing to give notice and inadequate explanations, failing to comply, timely manner issues, delays, lack of evidence, disrespecting character of other parties, misleading false information, breaching confidentiality, and so on. Item 20 on the report, Rule 23-9B, it specifically identifies examples of unreasonable, frivolous, vexatious, or in bad faith conduct to include changing a position without notice to the parties or introducing an issue or evidence not previously mentioned or included in the procedural order. That brings a question to mind. When we turned on the Zoom meeting, we were looking at a new version of the proposed development. It appeared that they shifted the entrance to the south. So somewhere along the line, there was a piece of Sullivan Street, the old closed part of it, that was a part of this development, the entryway at the beginning of all this. It went unnoticed for the most part. I think it was brought up near the end. But somewhere along the line before the meeting, that parcel was given back or taken back. So then they had to turn around and use the entrance straight off Elgin, which is a little bit more of a danger for the ones nearest to the road. So I have a question. My question is, how was that option taken off the table, and why prior to the case without any notice? They presented a new plan and just proceeded as nothing had happened. I don't know exactly what the municipality is being accused of, but I would certainly see that as changing a position without notice as the parties. A case here, it's against what they're saying in their own judgment. Nowhere in the list of rules do I see a council municipality can't challenge the tribunal on the perception of an item in their own official building plan. Consideration must be given to ensure that new housing fits in and complements the characteristics of existing neighborhoods. On April 24th, when this was hot and we were into the middle of it, Ford even stated that the government wasn't going to dictate where the houses were built. It was up to municipalities as they knew their area better, where a good fit was and where it wasn't. And he went on to say that existing single dwelling neighborhoods with multiple story fourplexes was not the way to go. So I say this for three reasons. Number one, Mayor, Council, you heard our story. We had discussions about our concerns and you stepped up to support us. So we appreciate that. So that your legal, number two, so that your legal agrees it wasn't a waste of anyone's time and efforts, and that the argument was valid and conveys this to the OLT developer to mitigate the charge that they have against us. And maybe start a conversation in relation to established rules on municipal property allocation process, as in how did that land move from hand to hand. So with that said, I'm just basically, like I said earlier, I'm just here to close the chapter, and I appreciate everyone's help.
Thank you, Mr. DeGroot. I will turn the floor over to members of council if they have any questions or clarification or comments. Councilor Rowley.
I just have a quick comment in. I believe our municipal solicitor is listening in as well. If he could at some point or through council or to Mr. DeGroot answer the questions that he raised in his presentation.
I'm sure through staff that can happen, and we'll get some information back from Mr. Ewert when we next speak to him. Yeah, thank you, Mr. DeGroot. I would say your feeling, your community's feeling defeated makes some sense to me, given that council went to bat for, and on behalf of the neighborhood, we thought that the proposed development did not fit into the character of the neighborhood. We have been schooled as to why that might not be the case. However, I think anybody with eyeballs would suggest that that is in fact true. And quite right. The change came not from council. So the issue of being frivolous and vexatious does not seem to be ours. However, we have been labeled that way. And to suggest that I was a little upset with that ruling, given the fact that each and every member of this council is hardly frivolous nor vexatious, let alone as a group. What we did was endeavor to protect and defend the municipality as a whole, while coming to bat for the local neighborhood. We remain in conversation with our solicitor as to what next steps might be. We don't know what that looks like, or even if there is opportunity, or there's opportunity we want to go down the road of. But I'm not going to say any more. But thank you appreciate your support of council's support. At the end of the day, we appreciate that. Motion is moved by Councilor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council receive the delegation by Jake DeGroot regarding OLT 24000093 JRB Williams Enterprises, Inc. report. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And the final presentation comes from Brighton Tennis Club regarding the agreement between the municipality and the tennis club. Just push the silver button in front of you there. There you go.
Okay, well, we're getting organized. I wouldn't mind you just reading that. Okay, next slide, please. Good evening, Mayor Ostrander, Brighton councillors. I'm Carl Dyer, president of the Brighton Tennis Club. This is Matt Geispers, one of our young executive members. As stated in multiple earlier presentations, I represent most of Brighton's tennis playing public. We have already presented our 50-year relationship with the town, an arrangement that has provided much success in maintaining and enhancing the public courts at King Edward Park and promoting tennis play to a diverse group of people within our community. Up to now, our relationship has been informal and cooperative, with care taken to give time for club activities and general public use. For 50 years, this arrangement has worked without issue. Together, we have worked on larger projects like court resurfacing funding and lighting. We've worked together to advocate for separate court facilities for pickleball. Recently, the town expressed a desire to enter into a legal agreement with the club rather than an informal one. And instructions were given to staff to have one ready early in 2025. Next slide, please. I'd like to point out the timeline of the process to date. December 2nd was the instruction to have things ready early in the next year. February 4th, 17th, 28th, emails were written to Ms. Arthurs indicating the need for the club to be informed about the agreement proposal. We're talking a month past early. Emails indicate that the proposal after February would hamper negotiation and planning for the tennis season. February 28th, email stating that our meeting is postponed. No agreement was there to be discussed until mid-March. And it states that the president would be out of the country, that's myself, of course, still March 14th. March 4th, the proposed agreement arrives to myself and Richard Robb, another executive. No committee review or action would be possible until March 15th. March 17th, after a cursory read of 5 questions were asked of Ms. Arthurs about the contract by myself to begin preparation for the BTC Brighton Tennis Club meeting. Next slide, please. March 18th, BTC executive meets to discuss the agreement. BTC first discussion of the document found difficulty with many sections, but we also agreed with many sections. BTC then decided to request the following day a meeting with Ms. Arthurs during the following week. March 19th, after I finished a hockey game, midday, Ms. Hallam mentions to me that the proposed draft agreement will be presented to council tonight. The club wrote an email to Ms. Arthurs asking for a meeting the following week as planned. Ms. Arthurs wrote back suggesting that a delegation would be needed to present concerns today. And at last possible moment, BTC requests a delegation within hours of being allowed. As you can see, by looking at this timeline, the BTC has had very little time to assess the proposed contract and has had no input into the content. There has been no window for discussion, revision, and editing the document. Given the late nature of the preparation of the document and exclusion of the club from input, we suggest delaying the approval of the proposed agreement until there is input and agreement of its content from both parties. Let's see. Now, before we move on, I would like to put forward a point that's bothersome to me before Matt begins his introduction. In the staff report for this meeting, it states that $1,500 be paid to the town to offset lighting costs. Our lighting costs average $635 a year annually. We have no problem paying the fee, just state what the other $865 goes towards. For example, you could be saying it goes into a savings account for resurfacing, and that'd be fine with us. But at least, make it clear where the money goes. Okay, next slide, please. And I'll now pass the rest of the presentation on to Matt Geispers, who will explain some of the issues and difficulties we have with the document.
Thank you. And I know I'm likely to be a little short on time, so if I can be given a heads up, and I'm afraid I'm going to be asking to bounce back and forth, and I apologize for that. So I'm going to talk about some of the concerns and specifically what they relate to. So beginning, there are breach clauses within this agreement about if duties by us, the club or the township are not met, it will lead to potentially the contract being terminated. And that is a significant concern for us because of the ambiguity within the contract. For example, under the maintenance clause, it doesn't offer any clarification, but specific maintenance to be completed by the club versus what the town has to complete. Like a great example of this is setting up windscreens and actually the nets themselves. It is not specifically addressed in the contract. This is something we would like to continue doing, and I will explain further why shortly. But another example of a significant concern for us is at section 9.2 in the contract that states that we will give an irrevocable covenant to cooperate with the municipality about their programs without any discussion regarding what those programs could be. The issue for us is that covenant could be something as simple as you need a member, like one of our people who give lessons and do stuff, to be present, but we have no understanding of when that date could be given to us and whether there would be availability and if we could then meet that covenant. Clarification on those will help us a lot. So, regarding some of the other things that whether you want use of the ball machine or if you want us to promote it on our Facebook page, again, we have no knowledge of what you might need in order for that. And therefore that clarification could assist us greatly. An additional concern is the expectations that the township is going to hold. For example, the quality of the lighting or the quality of the court surfaces, and it's not specifically defined except that of a prudent owner. But a prudent owner could say, well, you can see kind of, it's fine. Or there's a net there, that's fine. But it could be to the point where the tennis is not really playable at night or even during the day. An important thing to clarify is at a previous meeting, Mr. Dyer has told council and told your worship that the courts are going to need significant repairs within the next 1 to 2 years, and there's no timeline for when that work might be done. You could basically say, sorry, this is going to take a year, and we could lose an entire tennis season to that. As a part of a contract, these are essential things we need to know in order to decide whether we want to agree to such a contract. The next area of concern is the length of the tennis seasons versus the club season, how it's again not defined in the contract. Historically, the tennis club has put up the nets, and we've done so at the first possible opportunity when weather permitted it to happen. And then we would take them down again when the weather conditions deteriorated to the point where tennis was no longer really feasible. But according to the contract, and the way it's looking right now, it appears as if we're going to lose at least a full month of tennis play compared to previous seasons. This can be, and a great example of this happened last year when the contract said till November 15th. And the last minute, we were given notice, I believe on October 31st, that, hey, nets have to go down tomorrow. And our club had to rush out and get that job done. Next, the contract is vague towards the timing within the contract specifically to what we're getting for the value put in. The contract says we would get 1,500 hours of play for $1,500. Based on our initial understanding and reading of the contract, said it would represent the use of the grounds themselves, meaning both courts. However, staff has informed us that it's actually 1,500 hours per court, meaning a total of 750 hours instead of the 1,500. The concern this leads to is basically what kind of programs for the community, the Brighton Tennis Club, will be able to run with those limited hours, as this is already a cut off of last year's already reduced hours as requested by the township. Some of the examples of things we might lose are the junior lessons, the smash cage, and sunny days. Some of these events need to start being organized right now. And with the limitation of hours based on the 750-hour interpretation of the contract would make it challenging for the club to offer such programs. Therefore, children who might want to get their parents to rent out court time for them or even just play with us will no longer be able to do so. Further, Sunny Days is a community outreach program that focuses on bringing the game to people with intellectual disabilities. It is a program the Brighton Tennis Club has prided itself on running and participating in. But with this uncertainty, it will be challenging for us to know if we can do it within both the notice period within the contract, as well as within our limited hours. Another point I want to quickly talk about is more of a legal issue, and that is the consideration and potential unconscionability within this contract. Due to the limited time we have had to review the contract, we've had no chance to have a solicitor review it ourselves, and there's a potential that council and your worship might tell us, hey, it's a take it or leave it, do it now, or your tennis season is gone. In that case, we might be forfeiting rights we are not fully aware of, as we have not had that opportunity. Something that we suggest could and should happen is a memorandum of understanding could be made between us and the town, where they talk to us about the what needs to happen from the township's perspective, and we can tell them our concerns. We have experience with running these courts. We have experience with running these lights. There are issues that the town might not be aware of. And if you come to us, we want to work with you. We want to participate in this. We want to make these courts as accessible and usable for everyone, not just us, the club ourselves. We want kids and we want other adults and we want anyone who wants to learn and try the game to be able to come out. Well, yeah. Oh yeah, next slide. Sorry. So I guess the key thing I want to focus on here is that the Brighton Tennis Club, we want to work with the township. We want to create a relationship where the town has the opportunity to use the courts, to rent them out to other people during non-club times. We understand that could be beneficial to the township and could be beneficial in order to help improve the courts and improve that as a part of making this town more attractive to newcomers and new people wanting to come. That is something we consider really important ourselves. But the issue again goes back to this happened in December, where we found out that a contract needs to be put together. We only received it on March the 4th. That's what, approximately 20 days ago. And this was given to us knowing our president was going to be out for a while. When we got together, it was approximately a week ago, and we've been trying to do this, but here we are today having to come in last minute because there's been no real efforts to consult with us and work with us in order to work with the town. We want to work with you. Therefore, the Brighton Tennis Club suggests.
Next slide.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That with the significance of this contract for both the club and the community, that this requires further review and discussion in order to create a contract that provides the township and club with a wholesome understanding of our legal obligations and legal protections. With the way the weather has been trending, nets are likely going to be ready to go up in the next couple of weeks. Like, I mean, we had a 20-degree day last week, and I'm sure by mid-April, it's going to be pretty warm out. Yet, at this point, with that timeline coming up and getting the junior lessons going and getting the other programs we need to get set up, I don't know how feasible it is to have that accomplished within the next week or two, which is what the timeline that would need to happen in order to make sure everything's ready to go. Therefore, what our club is asking is if there would be a way where we can continue to negotiate and figure out this contract, but in order to get the season moving forward and to make sure all these opportunities are not lost to the community, that we allow it to go back to the previous year's contract, which with already those reduced hours, so that we can promote things for the community as a whole and allow the season to proceed as per the balanced schedule. I guess pending any further questions, those are the end of my submissions.
Thank you both. Members of council, questions? How long would you need to review the documents?
Well,
Give or take. I'm not looking.
yeah, go ahead.
It'll take as long as it takes.
That's not a good answer. I need an answer.
That's what I mean, because we, like, the original instructions were early in the year. I assume that's January. And you know, you want a good agreement when it's done.
Right. So
You
how
don't want
long?
something that's like, I'm not going to sign.
I would
So-
suggest if the town is willing to like kind of consult with us and kind of like figure this out together, we could have this happen in the next month or month to 2 months at most. But I do think it's important to say, I think that consultation and dialogue is going to be the fastest way to do this. And if it's just contract, we put in our issues, new contract back, I think that's going to be a much slower method than us kind of creating a memorandum of understanding or something like that.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Anything else from council? Councillor Wheeldon, Councillor McCausland, you are the mover and seconder. I've changed the word delegation to presentation. Just FYI, you're both okay with that? It's moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that council receive the presentation from the Brighton Tennis Club regarding the agreement between the municipality and the tennis club. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Go ahead.
I have a question for staff, if that's okay.
We do have the agreement coming to us in about 4 minutes.
All right, I'll just wait.
We can have those conversations then. So any questions on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, it's citizen comment time. Are there any? That brings us to staff reports. The first report is the tennis club agreement. Manager Hallam, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a few comments. Currently, the municipality works with numerous organizations who offer programming at Brighton facilities. Our various hall, field, and ice sport groups operate on a user pay model, with the exception to the Brighton Tennis Club and the Brighton Pickleball Club. The department supports a consistency for paying to play model based on the user fees that council has approved in the annual fees for services bylaw to support all sport and recreation providers. These fees contribute to operational costs. However, not a complete cost recovery is ever recouped. Please note that the hours presented in this agreement are not reflective of what the tennis club has requested this year, as that has not been submitted yet for this season. I've also met with the Pickleball Club, and they are very perceptive to work together with the Parks and Recreation Department. Once this agreement is finalized with tennis, the intent is to mirror a similar agreement with the Pickleball Club as directed.
Thank you for that. The motion is moved by Councillor Wheeldon and seconded by Councillor Wright. The council approve the user agreement between the tennis club and the municipality of Brighton for the 2025 season, and that staff be directed to provide a report to council in November 2025 on the success of the season and any recommended modifications for the 2026 season. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. The members of the tennis club indicated that they were not actually consulted on the preparation of this contract and would like the opportunity to engage. I had assumed that there would be that kind of engagement prior to any contract being written. And that is of some concern to me. Can we confirm that there was no actual consult? Not that I doubt them, but
CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Wheeldon. There was an initial meeting that we had before the contract was developed. I don't recall whether it was before council's direction, before or after council's direction to have the agreement drafted through our solicitor. So we did have a discussion about how the municipality intended to move forward. And at that point, we had indicated that we would have the agreement drafted by our solicitor and provide it to them for comment. And that is such what we did.
You both, anyone else? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Also to the CAO or Ms. Hallam. The presenters asked for a month to 2 months. I'm thinking that's maybe a little bit long. Is there an opportunity for staff to just sit down with them to have some kind of conversation before we totally dot all the I's and cross all the T's without it being detrimental to any season?
CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly we can sit with the group. My concern going through this presentation is there may be areas where we're just going to have difficulty coming to that agreement. So we can certainly sit down and go through it. As indicated, this was developed by our solicitor. This wasn't something that myself and Manager Hallam crafted. Mr. Uritt is here if you have questions as far as the legalities of it. I know there was some discussion about the maintenance and that sort of thing, and I think those things are easy. But there may be some discussions that I'm not sure that between staff and the club that we're going to be able to finalize. So that's my concern with just saying, yes, we can meet, due to the fact that the concerns that they have within the agreement, a lot of them did come from our solicitor.
And just a reminder that it was council who asked for this report to come back ASAP. So staff is following our direction by bringing it here, not trying to push the tennis club down a road faster than the tennis club's ready to go, but in fact trying to follow the direction of council. So just let's remember that as we move forward here. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Wheeldon.
I would like to defer this until such a meeting has occurred. Just having the people sit down and clarify things makes a lot of sense to me. If indeed most of these issues are able to just be clarified, then that's great and prevents conflict. I don't expect everything to be in perfect agreement ever on any matter. But certainly it seems to me that sitting down with the people affected should be the first step in any agreement. And it seems like it's one that maybe was not done in a fulsome manner this time.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon. We've heard a month or two. I think that is a fairly long period of time. What happens if we defer this? I don't want to put the tennis playing public or the club itself at risk of not being able to open the courts. CEO?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we would request some direction from council on how you'd like us to proceed, because clearly the tennis club would like to get going with their season. And if we are not going to bring this agreement back for 1 to 2 months, that's going to delay and impact their season, I'm sure. So if council would like to proceed as we have in previous years, that could be the direction of council. I had mentioned to the club, the agreement is what staff is proposing, so council will have to make a decision on how you want to proceed with it.
Councillor Wheeldon and Councillor Wright as the mover and seconder of this, instead of directing staff to bring a report back, actually, instead of this motion at all, we should probably withdraw the motion, put another motion on the floor. I would suggest that we defer the matter until, I have to be careful how we do this because a motion to defer is not debatable and we might want discussion around it, but perhaps provide direction to staff to carry on as per 2024. I don't think there's an actual agreement, right? There's just an understanding. So as per the 2024 understanding and defer until, I think we should be very specific as the time, and I would suggest the 22nd of April, which is the day after Easter Monday and our final meeting in April. It gives everybody 3 weeks. I know that might not be a lot of time for some folks, but I think it provides a date and lights a fire perhaps under everybody, both organizations to get something done. So Councillor Wheeldon, never appropriate for me to ask, but will you withdraw your motion, please?
I will happily.
Thank you. What I've drafted here reads that council receive the tennis club agreement report and defer the matter to the April 22nd, 2025 meeting, and further the council directs staff to proceed with tennis as per the 2024 understanding in quotes. Is there a mover? It's moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Rowley. Any discussion? Councillor Wheeldon?
Do we need to direct staff to have that meeting, or is that just a given?
I think if staff doesn't have the meeting, there'll be some splaining to do, so.
Thank you.
We can trust them to carry out that direction without being explicit. Anything further from members of council? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next report is Love Local Week in Brighton. Ms. Birch, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not.
Was a lot of effort for that. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that council declare the week of April 14th to 19th as Love Local Week in Brighton to encourage residents to shop locally. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just for the public here to take notice to the new signs at the entrances coming into our wonderful municipality, the same thing, Love Local. The DBIA would appreciate any and all support. Who knows what the next few months will hold, especially this summer, but economics might be a little bit tough this year. So do what we can when we can. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I would note that this declaration is for the week before Easter, so everyone is encouraged to do their Easter shopping if that's what they participate in right here in Brighton if you're able to. Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, there have been a lot of people talking about how do we avoid American products, et cetera. But the best way to support Canadian products and address tariffs, et cetera, is to shop local. When you shop local, 100% of your dollar stays local. When you shop at any larger chains, that's not necessarily the case. And so if you can look the shop owner in the eye as you hand them money, that's how you support local. That's how you address tariffs. That's how you build support for your local community all at the same time.
Thank you for that. Anything further from members of council? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And Mr. Ewert, since you are paid by the hour, sir, we have nothing else for you this meeting. If you'd like to head on down the road.
I certainly will, Your Worship. Thank you. And again, to council, thank you for having me virtually. I'll take my leave at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Ewert. We do appreciate your attendance.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next report is Barns to Beaches Summer Concerts Manager Hagerman. We've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council receive this report for information and become aware of the Barns to Beaches Summer Concert event that the municipality has the opportunity to host in partnership with Canadian Musicians Cooperative. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. This looks exciting. Next report is New Visual Identity Process Manager Hagerman. We've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Through the mayor, I think Laura and Doug did an unbelievable job, so no.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council receive the new visual identity report for information. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wright.
Was trying to agree there, but I think overall what they presented this evening was very exciting. And the only disappointing thing I have is that Doug didn't wear his glittery jacket.
Well, maybe at the Quinny Business Achievement Awards, we'll see that. Councillor Rowley.
I know we're receiving the report. Should we be supporting what? Should it be a support instead is my,
By receiving the report, we are providing direction to staff to carry on down the road. We have budgeted for it.
We're good.
We can support it, but we already have essentially, so.
exactly.
um,
I'm just looking at words.
it doesn't hurt, wouldn't hurt to change it to support.
That was the specific ask of Ms. Knegt was our wholehearted support. I'm happy to say that.
Councillor Wright, it's your motion. I have changed receive to support. Anything further from members of council? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Next report is the 2024 annual Brighton Springs Drinking Water System Report and 2024 Wastewater Pollution Control Plant and Lift Station Annual Report. CAO Arthurs, we've read this report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon. So why did that come up first? Oh, because it wasn't included. Okay. I apologize. I've skipped one in the agenda because it wasn't in the council package. So I will come back to that. I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receive and approve the 2024, Wastewater Pollution Control Plant and Lift Station Annual Report, and that council receive and approve the 2024 Annual Brighton Springs Drinking Water System Report. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wright.
I just had a question on page 78 of 166, as it lays in our iPads. It says, is your annual report available to the public at no charge on a website? And it says, yes, visit brighton.ca. Can we have that link to the actual report? Because it just goes to the front page of the website, and then somebody's going to be digging for whatever it is they need to look for.
CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Wright, I will ensure we do that. Somebody who's far smarter than I.
Anything further from members of council? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And moving back one to the 2024 Council and Committee Remuneration Report. CAO, I see that Mr. Puffer is not with us. We've read Mr. Puffer's report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think apologies for not having the actual report added to the agenda. We will have it posted so it's available for those that want to review it.
Thank you for that. And for accountability, transparency, et cetera, we will also be asking staff to put this forward under unfinished business on the next agenda so that this report does in fact have clarity to the public. I think that's only fair to do given that it's discussing council's remuneration. I think it's wise for us to be clear about that. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council receives and directs staff to place on the next agenda under unfinished business the 2024 Council and Committee Remuneration Report as information. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you. Looking on the back page, members of boards and committees, is this a complete list? It seems to me there might be maybe a committee or so missing. I'm thinking of Quinty Access, maybe the Physician Recruitment Committee, if we have any members of public on those. I don't see those all listed on this back.
CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Rowley, I will follow up with Mr. Puffer.
And in some cases, those remunerations may be paid by the organization and not by the municipality.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next report is a CAO ongoing report and capital projects update. CAO, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Wright. The council received for information the CAO ongoing report and capital projects update. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wright.
I was informed by my husband that the automated speed enforcement system is in place. At least he thought that's what it was. Is that what it was? And will it be operational at what point?
I think we're seeing some things happen on the polls. I'm not sure the cameras are there yet, but certainly our friends on Facebook think so. Mr. Walsh.
Nothing happening.
The one time we need more words, Paul.
Yeah.
The one time.
No, there has been a new device installed that is to coordinate with the camera, and it's called a speed tracker. And we had an older version, but we were informed that we needed a different version that came with no extra cost. So that's been recently installed, and that helps calibrate the camera essentially. So there has been additional installations and activity that way, but still nothing active in terms of automated speed enforcement. We're still waiting for a signed agreement from the Ministry of Transportation.
Just FYI, that agreement did come across my desk. I know the clerk and I have both signed it, so it's off in front of our friends at the province at the moment.
Sure. Yeah. And I think it's been sent to them, and I think we're still waiting to hear back from them.
I'm just suggesting that we've done our bit.
Yes. Yes. Agreed.
And we wait
Agreed.
patiently for our friends of the province to do theirs.
And they gave us a fairly long list of things to do, and we feel that checklist is done as well.
And my understanding is once the cameras are installed and we are ready to roll with automated speed enforcement, that we are required to test these things for 90 days before they go live with enforcement. Is that true?
That's correct, Mayor. Yeah. It's in the regulations to give a 90-day public notice period. And although we've got the notice up already, and we have newer, bigger signs to also put up just to just better signs. We're going to exceed that time period by giving another 90 days once the agreement's signed.
Perfect. And we will be providing lots of notice to the public through social media opportunities, et cetera, I assume.
Again, correct, Mayor. Manager of Economic Development and his communication team already have a web page put together and ready to go when the appropriate time comes.
Because our wish, of course, is to slow people down.
Yes.
Anything further on the CAO's report? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I just want to say how much I appreciate seeing all of the yellow on this report, yellow indicating new stuff. Often the work of municipal government is invisible, and if we do it right, then it almost always is. But I don't think anyone could take a look at this list and think that our staff are not busy, busy, busy. So thank you for all of your hard work, everyone.
Nicely done. Councillor Wheeldon, thank you. And everybody. Anything further on the report? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. We have no notice of motion or motions. We have nothing listed under unfinished business. We have no bylaws to consider this evening, which brings us to reports, minutes of advisory committees of council and review teams. The first is a recommendation from the Community Events Steering Committee meeting of February 11th. And the motion reads, I'll need a mover and a seconder. The council approved the recommendation as presented by the Community Events and Civic Awards Steering Committee to rename and restructure the two items as illustrated in the report to 1. Change the name of the Citizen of the Year Award to Community Service Excellence Award, and 2. Add an additional level of recognition, the Spirit of Service Award, and 3. Formalize the voting process at the committee level and that staff prepare and bring forward updated terms of reference. Is there a mover? Councillor Rowley. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wheeldon. Is there any discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Rowley.
Thank you. Just want to add a little bit to this. The subcommittee of Community Events and Civic Awards, we were really trying to kind of build on last year's event that we had. And we just found that maybe we needed to kind of take just a little bit a different path to kind of get a bit more community engagement. That seems to be working this year with the number of nominations that we've received. So hopefully that this will, we will keep building on something that I believe has always been something that we have never recognized enough, the value of the volunteers that we have in our community.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And the minutes of the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting with a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that Council receive the January 13th, 2025 Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. The next is a recommendation from the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting of March 12th. It's moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that Council support the recommendation from the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee regarding raising the Earth Day flag, and that Council direct staff to raise the Earth Day flag on April 22nd, 2025. Is there any discussion? Do we have a flag? Councillor Wheeldon.
Deputy Clerk Polly was going to purchase one, and so we spent up to $200 to purchase such a flag, and she found one able to get here before April 22nd.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything further from members of council? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. There's another one. And a second recommendation from Environmental Sustainability. It's moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council support the recommendation from the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee regarding support for tree planting initiatives and programs, and that Council direct staff to engage with any programs or organizations that provide programming and or funding opportunities that promote tree planting in the municipality of Brighton. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
A couple of years ago, I believe we had such a program here. Do we have that program still, or is this looking for something new?
I think this is probably asking staff to keep their eye open for other opportunities and maybe re-engage in that one as well. Councillor Wheeldon.
Yeah, so there was a request that was sent to the municipality about whether or not we wanted to engage in a particular tree planting program. And so the committee felt that there was probably never going to be a tree planting program that we would disagree with on principle. And so we made a recommendation that we just always look for ways to engage with such programs. So it's not like having to have a special delegation to council every single time there's a chance to get outside funding to plant trees. We should just plant those trees.
So this circumvents the need to send every request on tree planting programs to the Environmental Sustainability Committee. It's providing direction to staff to just engage. Yeah. Anything further? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. That brings us to reports and minutes of statutory committees, boards, and external agencies. The only one on this list is the Northumberland OPP Detachment Board, with a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that Council receive the January 17th, 2025 Northumberland OPP Detachment Board meeting minutes and January report. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And that brings us to correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, and petitions. It's moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council support the correspondence from Trees for Life dated March 3rd, 2025. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next item is the formation of a planning committee for Proctor Park. It's moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council receive the correspondence from Rhonda Bateman, CAO, Lower Trent Conservation, regarding the planning committee for Proctor Park Conservation Area Pavilion redevelopment, And further, that council appoint Bobby Wright and Emily Rowley as the council representatives to sit on the planning committee for Proctor Park Conservation Area Pavilion redevelopment. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Brings us to FYI correspondence, and the only item is the Northumberland County updates. It's moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receive for information the Northumberland County updates, March 17th to 28th, 2025. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. That brings us to question period. If anyone in the gallery has a question with anything that appeared on tonight's agenda, please step forward. There are none noted. It's the largest our gallery's been in a little while. And one is away. Was that who it was? Confirmatory bylaw. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Council meeting held on March 24th, 2025. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that March 24th, 2025 council meeting adjourn at 7:53 p.m. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. May we be resolute in our duty to protect local and Canadian values, and may God save the King.